from the recent output from the government, Rishi Sunak, Boris, getting people into work and giving people the opportunity to have a role in a business is more important than ever. And on those grounds, there are huge swathes of change in financing, grants, and I guess apprenticeship money being made available to employers. So on those grounds, I would like to welcome Emma Horne from Crosby Management Training, and I shall pass the baton on to her now. So all yours.
Thanks, Richard, and thank you very much for having us. As Richard said, I'm from Crosby Management Training. We're a specialist training provider delivering apprenticeships, qualifications and consultancy, and we've been established over 20 years. Me personally, I'm the performance director at Crosby, and I've personally been involved in delivering apprenticeships for the last 4 years. And I'm also the chair of the Employer Trailblazer Group, responsible for all the HR and L&D apprenticeships. So my world has been apprenticeships really for the last 4 years or so. Also on the call today, I have my colleague and our Chief Exec, Paul Cadman. So Paul will be available if anyone has any questions at the end, probably more broadly around apprenticeships, because Paul is on the board of the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education and also chair of the Quality Assurance Committee. So Paul will be happy to answer those broad questions around apprenticeships, and I'm obviously happy to answer any questions around the payroll apprenticeships. So the purpose really of today, and I've got to be careful because I know you've been brilliant so far at sticking to time, and I do get a bit excited and carried away when I talk about apprenticeships, but I've got 15 minutes. And the purpose is really to update you on the availability of apprenticeships in payroll and give you a little bit of information in terms of what it might involve and how it works and how it might add value to your organisation. So first of all then, who are the payroll apprenticeship or suitable for? So the apprenticeship standard, the level 3 standard, was actually developed by the Trailblazer Employer Group for Payroll, a name some of you may know. Ian Holloway led that group, chaired that group. So the apprenticeship standard was designed by employers. So that makes sure it's fit for purpose. The content is what employers said they need. And it's suitable for individuals who have responsibility for setting up and operating the payroll. It might be individuals who are employed within an organisation. And as we know, that role tends to sit with either within perhaps a broader HR function or within a finance function. Or it could be individuals who deliver payroll on behalf of other organisations. So, you know, payroll bureaus, bookkeeping or accountancy practices. Now, the apprenticeship is suitable for people starting out in a payroll administrator role. So in terms of recruiting new people to the role, obviously we are aware, and I'm sure you're aware of the government incentives at the moment, £2,000 if you recruit an apprentice under 25 at the moment, or £1,500 over 25. So you can use the apprenticeship standard to develop somebody who's brand new in the payroll administrator role. But increasingly, organisations are using apprenticeships to upskill existing team members, and as a really cost-effective way of developing and closing some of the skill and knowledge gaps from existing team members. And the numbers I've got as at March 2020, the latest numbers I've got, there were nearly 500 apprentices now doing the payroll administrator standard, and that's getting increasingly popular, and a lot of it is those upskills. So what does it contain? What's the content? Well, as I said, it was developed by the Trailblazer Group, but with all apprenticeship standards have to follow the format of having knowledge, skill and behaviour elements. So unlike perhaps qualifications, typically apprenticeships are about applying the knowledge and demonstrating the skills and behaviour. So it's sort of really encompasses the whole element of the role. And I know Nick mentioned the importance of soft skills. Apprenticeships really are about applying the knowledge, demonstrating skills and behaviours in the workplace. So in terms of the payroll administrator standard, there are a number of knowledge components. And the first of those is that sort of general business and customer awareness. So it's making sure the apprentice understands the context, the environment, the sector, the vision, mission, values of the organisation, understanding their customers. And typically they might be internal customers, and working with other departments such as HR and making sure that internal customer chain works. So business and customer awareness is one of the core components. But then the core components really move on to those technical elements. So core payroll, sort of the legislation, types of workers, pensions, workplace pensions, rules and roles and admin around pensions. And then the technical calculations of payments and deductions, regulation and compliance, systems and processes. So all those sort of knowledge components. Then there are a number of skill components, and for the payroll administrator, they are planning and prioritization, analysis, systems and processes, producing quality and accurate information, team working and collaboration, and communication and engagement. And then filing the behaviours, and typically this will link into the values of an organisation, but the behaviours the Trailblazer Group considered the most important for a payroll administrator are ethics and integrity, adaptability, and I know that's one that Nick mentioned as well, professional scepticism, proactivity and enthusiasm, and professional development. So you've got a really well-rounded set of knowledge, skills and behaviours that a payroll administrator needs to be able to do a good job for your organisation. So in terms of how that is delivered, Crosby Training ourselves, we tend to use a blended approach for any of our apprenticeship programs. So we encompass different methods to really sort of suit different learning preferences. Obviously, with the pandemic in recent months, more and more has been delivered online. But where we can, we do like to have a blended approach, including some face-to-face delivery. And what we're doing at the moment, as Richard said, is we're working in partnership with the Payroll Centre. So the Payroll Centre are working with us to deliver more of the technical content. So making use of the ACT, the Assess, Customise and Train assessment tool. We've also got the online learning and a dedicated payroll tutor to support those technical elements. And of course, use of the resource hub from the Payroll Centre. So working in partnership with the Payroll Centre really to deliver some of those technical elements. And then we'll be delivering webinars and masterclasses to sort of supplement that and to pick up on the other knowledge and skill elements. An important part of any apprenticeship delivery is progress reviews. So we have three-way progress reviews, and I was going to say where you sit down with the line manager, the apprentice and us as the training provider, but of course now at the moment they're tending to be virtual three-way progress reviews. But it's an opportunity to review progress in terms of the more formal learning from the apprenticeship, but also to review performance in the workplace. How is that learning being applied? And how are they performing in their role? So it's that three-way review of progress and also agreeing targets and next steps and what additional support might be needed. So the progress review is a really important part of the delivery of the programme. And one of the other things sort of that I've actually got a separate slide on is something that we like to think sets us apart a little bit as a training provider, and something that makes our programs a little bit special. Now, I don't know if that image would sort of horrify you, but one of the things we do is take our apprentices to Snowdonia for a 3-day residential, because we believe in the importance of developing those behaviours that people need. And for the payroll apprenticeship, the administrator, it's the behaviours of adaptability, proactivity, enthusiasm that are in the standard. And again, Nick mentioned how important he's seeing those when recruiting for payroll professionals. But also in the standard, we have the skills of team working and collaboration, communication and engagement. They are the skills that the Trailblazer Group identified as really crucial for payroll administrators to be successful in their roles. So we take people out of the classroom and away from their laptops to really give them an opportunity to explore those behaviours and skills. And we do things, we take people out of their comfort zone, and we do things like gorge scrambling, co-steering, abseiling, but all focused on how you can then transfer that learning back into the workplace. I was a little bit skeptical myself of this sort of development, but having done it now sort of for the last 4 years with groups of HR apprentices in particular, I've seen the confidence in people develop over those 3 days, and it's just been a joy to watch, and I get a real buzz from seeing the apprentices really develop in confidence over those 3 days. But it's really important that we help transfer that learning back to the workplace. The difficulty we find is getting people there, because people think, oh, I don't like the sound of that. But actually, once they're there, we've got some brilliant videos and clips of, and I've put a link there to a YouTube, it's sort of a little bit of a compilation. But on our YouTube channel, we've got some brilliant clips of apprentices talking about, we've got people saying, you know, life changing. So we love the residential as part of the delivery for us in terms of our programme. The other thing that we do, broader than that technical content, is we have a learning pathway. So we see our role as a training provider to also support the broader well-being and development of our apprentices. So our learning pathway has resources and support around mental health, physical health, work-life balance, developing the growth mindset, and also things like career guidance and financial management. So really our programme is very much a blended approach, but it's addressing and developing the knowledge, skills and behaviours and bringing those all together in terms of applying those to performance at work. Typically for payroll administrators, the duration expected is 18 to 24 months of learning. And as I've mentioned, there would be progress reviews throughout that time, every 8 to 12 weeks. And a crucial point that many of you will be aware of, in order to secure the funding for the apprenticeship, the employer has to commit to giving 20% of the employee's time to off-the-job development. Now that doesn't sound, you know, it's not like going away to college for 1 day a week and disappearing. The development can be keeping up to date with business changes. It can be job shadowing. It can be reading and research. It's not about disappearing from your desk for 1 day a week. So people do tend to get a little bit concerned when they hear 20%, but it's the commitment you make as an employer to enable you to access that funding for the development of your people. But the development can be done in lots of different ways. So during that 18 to 24 months, assessments will take place and progress reviews to determine when the apprentice is ready for their final assessment. It's called the gateway when they're ready to go through into the assessment period. Now, Payroll Administrator Apprenticeship Standard is assessed in 3 different ways. And again, not like a knowledge-based exams, it's designed to really test overall occupational competence. It's not just having the knowledge, it's being able to apply that knowledge. So the first method is multiple choice questions. That's a 2-hour exam, really focused around the core sort of technical and pensions knowledge. The second method is a role simulation, and that's 3 hours. So really is a thorough assessment. There's some technical knowledge, some skills, and a little bit of behaviour in there as well. But it's a fictitious organisation, and the apprentices set a number of tasks and scenarios, and that includes manual calculations that they have to demonstrate that they're able to do. And then the final assessment method is a professional discussion, and that picks up on some of the other skills and behaviours that haven't been covered, and also some knowledge elements such as the business and customer awareness. What the Trailblazer group does is it maps the knowledge, skills and behaviours in the standard to the most appropriate assessment method. And there's a 30-page document that details how an apprentice is going to be assessed. So it is very thorough, and it's been thought through very carefully to make sure, again, it's fit for purpose. Again, many of you will know about apprenticeship funding and the levy. This particular apprenticeship standard has a maximum funding band of £9,000. And obviously, I'm sure you're aware that's funded through the levy, or if you're the organisation is a non-levy payer, then the employer only has to make a small contribution, the 5% contribution there, which is brilliant. And as I mentioned, there's lots of incentives at the moment from the government around recruiting an apprentice. So in addition, you can get if you're recruiting an apprentice, an additional £2,000. In terms of getting started at Crosby, what we do, we tend to pull together a cohort based on demand, and we tend to have regular cohorts. So it depends on really where demand is, but we can deliver the apprenticeship across England. And we actually, some of our clients, some of our larger employers where they have employees in Scotland and Wales, they actually choose to pay for the apprenticeship because they want their employees to receive the same development, even though it's only in England where the levy would apply. So obviously, you know, contact us, register your interest. We have to obviously complete an expression of interest form. There's quite a bit of checking to do to make sure somebody's eligible for the apprenticeship, but it's relatively straightforward. I did just want to mention coming next, I don't know if any of you are aware, the Trailblazer Group have been busy developing a level 5 payroll assistant manager. They've submitted the apprenticeship standard and assessment plan, so they're waiting now for approval of that from the Institute for Apprenticeships, and then hopefully, I think they're hoping that will be ready for delivery from early next year, and that's again will be something that we will offer. So you've got the career progression available there as well, and that's something we've seen that's worked brilliantly for HR in terms of apprentices moving through the different levels to progress their careers. So I'm very happy to take questions. I know that it's just been a high level sort of overview. I've put a link there to, we do some sort of sessions where we can talk to anyone interested about apprenticeships. Our next one is on the 14th of October. We call it a bit of a lunch and learn. It's only between 12 and 1. So you can register your interest if if you'd like to find out more about payroll apprenticeship or indeed any others. So thank you for listening. I've also just put up there our email address and also a link to our website, but happy now to take questions. And I'm looking at my watch, and for me that's pretty good actually, so I'm almost there in terms of time, Richard. So happy to take questions. I don't know if Richard, you want to take back control, but I'll have a little look in chat and the questions to see if I can see any questions or anything coming through for Paul or myself.
Yeah, hi, I'm back online. I'm going to leave you there for a minute. I do have one question so far. Do you have courses which are not apprenticeships, as the level 5 is useful?
Okay, the level 5 will be an apprenticeship. So we will be designing the delivery of that around the requirements of the apprenticeship. What we do, I mean, it's potentially there could be courses available in terms of aspects of the apprenticeship. And I know the Institute for Apprenticeships are actually looking at, if somebody wants just a part of an apprenticeship, could they just pick up on an aspect of that? But obviously the Payroll Centre, you deliver lots of courses, Richard, don't you, on specific aspects of, the technical thing. But